Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can know where the conversation is taking place. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, make sure you hit that notification button. That way you'll be notified every time we go live, and you can participate in the live chat as the program is taking place. Which, by the way, if you're watching us live, remember to send us a message. Drop us a chat, drop us a tweet. However you are watching us, if you're watching us live, you can comment, and we will get your comments, and we'll put them out there on the air and let folks know what you have to say about what we have to say. Unfortunately, today, once again, it's just going to be me. Mikey P is he's partaking of the World Baseball Classic. So he is out of town at the moment, handling his business, having a very good time. So we all wish him well, and which is interesting because I actually included a baseball story today, in honor of Mr. Piwowarski. But unfortunately, it's just going to be us talking about it today because, well, we're the only ones that are here, right? All right. But before we get into today's stories, we do want to go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor. So let's do that real quick. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. You can find them at hitmanindustries.net. If you are looking for either to do a rebuild or to rebarrel your current rifle, there's no better place to go than Hitman Industries. They have both rifle and pistol length barrels available for you today. In fact, I'll tell you what, chances are, if you own an AR that you've purchased recently, chances are you already have one of those barrels, so why not get another one? That's Hitman Industries. There's the California Republican Assembly, as referred to by former President Ronald Reagan as the conscience of the Republican Party. They are dedicated to electing conservatives to public office, whether it's school board all the way up to President of the United States. Folks, they are on the ground. They are working in California. They are the Republican wing of the Republican Party in California. So you want to become a member, check them out at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. Become a part of California's future today. Join the California Republican Assembly. And then if you are looking for a holster, a concealed carry holster, inside the waistband, outside the waistband holster, there is no better place to go than Hog Holsters. Because you know what? They are helping America wear guns. You can find them at hogholsters.com, and you can even get a discount by using discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. You can get your Hog Holster today. And then we've got uscombatgear.com, veteran owned and operated. If you are looking for outdoor gear, cold gear, tactical gear, rain gear, if you're looking for helmets, eyes, if you're looking for backpacks, shoes, you name it, they have it. They operate with integrity. They have low prices, fast shipping. Once again, veteran owned and operated. Check out uscombatgear.com. And those folks are our sponsors. How about a big hand for them? Yay, yay. That's right, folks. They bring us to you so that we can bring you to them. All you got to do is click on the link in the description. There's links in the description to this program on just about every platform. You can click on the link, check them out, spend some money with them, and make sure you tell them it was the guys over at The Rundown that sent you. All right, let's get into a crazy little bit of news that's out there right now. We all know that there was this big move in San Francisco, of all places. Well, not just San Francisco. It happened in a lot of places. But there was this big push to defund the police following what happened with George Floyd. And the interesting thing about it was there are a lot of politicians in various different places, and once again, including the city of San Francisco, that, they pushed to defund the police, right? And what's interesting about that is, let me pull this article up right here. So now you have a San Francisco supervisor. Her name is Hillary Ronan. She's begging for more police in her district. And by the way, that was after calling for and voting to defund the police in 2020. In fact, here she is begging for more police. Oh, You know what, folks? I didn't realize that I did not have the audio to go with that video. Let me see if I can pull up the audio here on the actual piece right here. Tell you what, we will put this over here. All right, now let's see if I can get this audio up. Oh, nope, got the wrong one again. We're going to bring this one over.
We've been begging for more footbeats and for more officers in the Mission District. I've been begging this department to give the mission what it deserves in terms of police presence all year long. And I have been told time and time and time and time again, there are no officers that we can send to mission. It hurts, and I feel betrayed by the department. I feel betrayed by the mayor. I feel betrayed by the priorities of the city. It is not this Board of Supervisors' priorities. We want our residents safe. We don't want our residents getting shot, getting assaulted, getting killed, because in the Mission, Chief, it's not theft. In the Mission, people are getting shot and killed. In the Mission, people are getting beat up. In the Mission, people are dying.
All right. Now, this is the same person who tweeted this. And by the way, this was August 16th in 2020. I want to make it clear that I believe strongly in defunding the police and reducing the number of officers on our force. For decades, we've had an imbalance in our city's budget, with hundreds of millions of dollars going to SFPD to have them do work they're not qualified to do. You mean like keeping people from getting beat up, keeping people from getting murdered, keeping people from getting robbed? See, she was upset because there was money that was being spent and there were special programs in order to address the rash of retail theft in downtown San Francisco. You know, those videos that you saw where people were running out of stores with hands full of stuff and the police were doing absolutely nothing about it. Yeah, that's where they were spending some money to address it. But like I said, I get it. She's right. Their citizens deserve to be safe. They do. They need to make sure that they're providing for that. But the gall, and I can't think of any other way to put it, but the gall of her after saying that she wants to see the police defunded, to now say, we want more police. Where's the mea culpa? Where is the, you know what? About that whole defund the police thing, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. Yeah, that was a bad idea. I'm glad that, I want that money back. I want to put that money back into the budget. And I don't remember if San Francisco actually voted to defund their police, but I know that she voted to defund the police. And so the question is, if they did vote to defund the police, is she going to fight to get that money put back in the budget? Is maybe that the reason why she's not getting more police in the Mission District? Or did they not do it? And, now she just wants more police. I don't know. Either way, she sounds really hypocritical. I don't know. Either way, she sounds very hypocritical. And I think it's important that we hold these politicians accountable for the things that they say and the things that they advocate for. Look, people, there are a few political ideas that go so wrong so fast. See, most of the time when these politicians vote on this stuff or they push these policies, by the time the actual impact happens, by the time the consequences come around, usually they've moved on to higher office. But in this particular case, it was such a bad idea. That went bad so quickly. She has no choice but to now advocate for the exact opposite of what she advocated before. But she's not going to admit that she's changed her mind. She's not going to admit that she was wrong because, we can't have that. We can't have politicians admitting that they're wrong. Now, can we? Of course we can. But hey, you know what? I guess being a Democrat means never admitting that you were wrong. Moving on to our next story. Senate bill codifies Bruen in law. Now, this is an important one because the Bruen decision, in essence, did more than a few things. One of the things that it did was, and fundamentally, It finally confirmed that the right to self-defense, the right to keep and bear arms, extends beyond your front door. That your fundamental human right of self-defense does not end when you leave your home, but that you do, in fact, have a right to defend yourself outside of the home. And it put in place also a standard by which, well, let me clarify. It clarified a standard that should have always been in place and replaced a standard that was just made up by some anti-gun judge, the determining quote unquote levels of scrutiny. Yeah, that was all made up by some judge. And people just said, yeah, let's go with that, because it gave them a reason and it gave them a way to override the actual text of the Constitution. And so what they decided, what the Supreme Court did was they laid out very clearly what the standard was when it came to measuring constitutional law. And that basically started with, no, you are not allowed to just make it up on your own. There are certain measures that you have to put in place. But by the way, one of the things that they want to do now is Senator Lindsey Graham out of South Carolina wants to actually codify it into law. Now, he's the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which will be the primary committee which will hear this. But it says here, legislation is co-sponsored by Chuck Grassley, John Cornyn, who has proven, there are some areas where he is anti-gun, in particular when it comes to red flag laws, he is anti-gun. But anyway, I digress. Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, John Kennedy of Louisiana, Tom Tillis, Marsha Blackburn, and every Republican member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, here's exactly what this what they say the legislation does. 1, recognize the importance of Second Amendment rights. 2, codifies Bruin into law, which creates a backstop to any future change from the Supreme Court. Creates public and private causes of action for any harmed individual, so they can file a suit against any law, rule, ordinance, etc. that infringes on Second Amendment rights. Shift attorney's fees and costs to the government if private lawsuit prevails. And finally, enables courts to strike down state and local gun control laws when they conflict with federal law. This, once again, this is all stuff that is, a lot of which is going to happen under Bruin as it stands. But more importantly, what I think it's going to wind up doing is it tells them, look, even if a new court decides, yeah, no, that doesn't say that. Well, guess what? This is going to say, well, now we know it's law, period. We have adopted this. Now, what are the chances of this passing the Senate? I'm going to say almost none. I'm going to say it has almost no chance of passing since Democrats, or let me clarify, since anti-gunners, people who are anti-Second Amendment, people who are anti-civil rights run the Senate, I doubt that it's actually going to pass the Senate. But it's a good start. And it's a model of legislation that maybe the House can take up, or who knows, maybe once Republicans or once pro-gunners, pro-Second Amendment advocates, pro-civil rights advocates, people who believe in the right to keep and bear arms are running the Senate and the House, and we have a president that is also of the same ilk, then maybe we have a chance to actually get this thing done. But right now, it's virtue signaling. I hate to say it, but it is. But I'd rather see them offering it and having the discussion and forcing Senate Democrats to vote against it than it would be forcing them to vote against it than it would be for them to not be talking about it at all. But let's not be under any illusions as to what the likelihood of this legislation actually becoming law is. Not saying, just saying. All right, next we have a sexual survey sent to Boston middle schoolers. That's right. This is a survey about sex and sexual activities. Now, there are many, being in education, there are many who are in education who are concerned about censorship in public schools, and they're concerned about school board members who are engaged in censorship. But what they fail to acknowledge in any of this is the severe overstepping that many in public education have done when it comes to whether it's people's positions on some of the critical race, and I feel very comfortable calling it the critical race theory stuff or the DEI or the anti-racism stuff, because in many cases, while there are some aspects of these that I think are good, There's some that are highly troubling, some aspects of them that are a real problem, and should not be taught anywhere near in any school, not even quite frankly any college campuses. But then there's also the queer theory, the gender theory, the gender identity politics stuff, and then there's just the pure sexualization of our children. And that's what this is. This is an example of sexualization of our children in the guise of sex education, or of, in this case, they're calling it gender identity stuff, gender identity education. This is a report out of the Washington Free Beacon, and I'll just read a little bit of it. It says a Boston public school elicited outrage among parents this week when it presented preteen students with an explicit survey asking about their sexual history, including whether they've performed oral sex. The principal of Elliott K-8 Innovation School, in a Thursday letter to parents, acknowledged that many concerns over the survey, which was administered on Wednesday with some 6th and 7th graders. A copy of the survey shows it inquired about the preteens' risk behavior with several questions asking about their sexual history. Have you ever participated in oral sex? One question asked. Oral sex is when a person puts their mouth on another person's genitals or private area, the survey explained. But wait, there's more. Another question asked students if they are transgender, someone who does not feel the same inside as the sex they were born with. Now, folks, this is, and you see, I want you to see the text of this. And once again, if you go to the Washington Free Beacon article, there's a link to the survey. I am of the mind, once again, that this is about parents deciding. Parents are the ones who are the both primary and most important educators of their children. It is up to parents to decide when such education on sex, sexual identity, and all that is appropriate for children. Now, there are people who not only want to educate our children on sex and sexualize our children, but they also want to keep that information, keep those discussions, those conversations from parents, right? You had a teacher, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You had a teacher who was fired because they would not keep the fact that one of their students wanted to transition, let me clarify, they would not agree to keep information if their student was changing their sexual identity. They were told that they were supposed to keep that a secret from the student's parents, and they refused to do it. I'm sorry, parents have a right to have that information. You do not, as a school district, get to keep information from parents. Sorry, no, you just don't. And you shouldn't be. But in this particular case, that's exactly what they want to do. And the thing about, once again, the survey is, it's an example of the state believing they know better how to raise your children than you do, right? They think they're better at it than you, even though the state has failed time and time again when it comes to instilling morals, values, and character into students or into children. They are horrible at it, right? But the thing also is that they want their morals. They want their character. So maybe they are successful, because when you look at some of the failures that they've had, maybe that's not so much a failure. Maybe it's a failure in the morals and character, not so much their ability to indoctrinate them with those morals and character. I don't know. We have found that when they've pushed sex education in schools, guess what you saw? You saw teenage sex went up. When they pushed contraceptives in schools, sex amongst teenagers went up. In fact, in just about every area where they said that we want to provide this additional education in order to help inform and prevent teen pregnancies or sexually transmitted diseases, as they've added more of this education, guess what they've got more of? More pregnancies, more sexually transmitted diseases, more sexual activity. And so I'm not so much, here's the thing. I'm not even going to question right now whether or not they caused the increase, right? Whether or not they cause these negative outcomes, all I'll look to say is that, well, their predictions that doing what they were going to be doing, providing all of this additional information and resources and protection, what we know is that it didn't work. It didn't do what they said it was going to do. That, I believe, there is no question of. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. I don't know. But I'll let y'all decide that one. The next story we have here has to do with the Marlins, and this was kind of a double one for my boy Mike, because him being, now he's a Mets fan, so I don't know that he claims necessarily the Marlins, but hey, they're the Marlins, so I'm gonna point that out. So the Marlins, well, they're at their stadium is where the World Series of Baseball is taking place. Not World, it's a World Series. The World, what are they calling this? It is called the World Baseball Classic, right? And at their stadium, they were having the game with Cuba, one of the Cuban games, the Cuba-U.S. game. And, well, according to media reports, there we go. According to media reports, it says here the Miami Marlins. So it was Miami. Miami Marlins, well, they say Miami. I always thought they were the Florida Marlins, but I could be wrong. They're in Miami, I guess. Marlins blocking anti-communist slogans at Cuba v. United States baseball game, Marco Rubio says. And here you have the banner here. It says, Viva Cuba, libre de dictatura, dictatura. There you go, dictatura. Which is basically, I'm going to assume now, by that strong expression, it says, long live liberty, long live Cuba, liberate them from the dictatorship. Anyway, here it is down here. Senator Marco Rubio said on Sunday that Miami Marlins were reportedly blocking people from displaying anti-communist slogans at the World Baseball Classic semifinals game. In a video posted on Twitter, as the United States prepared to face off against Cuba in a baseball game, Rubio said he received reports as well as videos that the taxpayer-funded stadium blocked visitors from displaying messages and slogans that the communist-controlled Cuban government deemed offensive. I'm getting reports, and I'm being sent videos from people trying to get into the game wearing t-shirts that say "Free Cuba, Cuba Libre," slogans that the Cuban regime finds offensive, said Rubio. And I'm being told that Miami Marlins, who operate this taxpayer-funded stadium, are not letting people in with these things on them. That's kind of what here. Let me see if I can play this video for you. Here, I'll let you can hear for yourself.
So tonight, the United States, in less than an hour, is going to play Cuba in the World Baseball Classic semifinals here in Miami. And I'm getting reports, and I'm being sent videos from people that are trying to get into the game wearing T-shirts that say "Free Cuba, Cuba Libre, Patria Vida," slogans that the Cuban regime finds offensive. And I'm being told that the Miami Marlins, who operate this taxpayer-funded stadium, are not letting people in with these things on. So just imagine that. A U.S. citizen-funded, taxpayer-funded stadium operated by the Miami Marlins in Miami, Florida, in the United States, and Americans are not allowed to take in T-shirts or flags or signs, not that have profanity, I agree with that, but flags and signs that have messages that the Cuban regime finds offensive. They're not allowed to bring them in, apparently. That's not what the Miami Marlins told us their policies were going to be, but apparently that's what they're enforcing. And it is outrageous, it's disgusting, it's grotesque. I hope it isn't true, and I hope it's being corrected.
All right, so that was his video. When you go down and you look a little bit further, it didn't appear. So you can see the signs are up, but what they're not showing are a lot of T-shirts, right? And were actually anti-Cuba or anti-Castro, pro-Cuba protesters who were there on the outside. So what it seemed like, if they saw something, they were saying something and not allowing them to bring it in. But I guess you had a lot of people who had banners who brought them in that, they made sure that, they didn't get a chance to see them. So that is kind of sad because, once again, you're talking taxpayer funded. You're talking, this is supposed to be America, and we're supposed to have the opportunity to be able to have freedom of speech. And a big part of freedom of speech is, is to dissent. And when you have, in particular, a dictatorship, I mean, I don't think you ought to be worrying about whether or not a dictatorship is offended by anything that we have to say. The American people have to say. I think that's despicable if, in fact, the Florida Marlins are doing that. Or the Miami Marlins. Anyway. At that point, we're going to go ahead and move along to our parting shots. These are brought to you by Hog Holsters. That's helping America wear guns. You can find them at hogholster.com. You can get a discount. Just use the rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your discount today. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, this first one, I don't want to put this. Well, I'll read this to you, and then I'll comment on it afterwards. For those of you, this is just basically just a sign, so I'll read it to you. It didn't start with gas chambers. It didn't start with one party controlling the media, one party controlling the message, let me start again. It started with one party controlling the media, one party controlling the message, one party deciding what was truth, one party censoring speech and silencing opposition, one party dividing citizens into us and them, and calling on their supporters to harass them. It started when good people turned a blind eye and let it happen. I wanted to share that one today because that's a lot of what we're dealing with right now. We are being told as conservatives that if you don't meet a certain ideological standard or position, you should be censored. You should be shut down. You don't, in some cases, deserve to have a job. We've seen that. We've seen politicians say that. We've seen people in the media say that. We've seen elected officials, once again, say that. We've seen companies like Twitter, not Twitter nowadays, not the modern day Twitter, but we've seen Twitter do it. We've seen, not Twitter in the past, Twitter in the past, I'm sorry. We've seen Facebook do it. We've seen YouTube do it. All of them are doing it. Trying to keep people from being able to have their voices heard. And, that's not a good thing. That's a bad one. The next thing we have is, that there is a fentanyl crisis, right? I mean, we know that there's a fentanyl crisis, and people are talking about it. By the way, it's not, in many cases, there are people who are intentionally taking fentanyl and overdosing. And those are overdoses, and those numbers are huge. But a huge percentage of the people who are overdosing on fentanyl are people who bought it who thought they were taking other drugs, and basically illicit drugs, but they were getting something other than what they thought they were taking. So they are actually being poisoned, right? And that poison is being fueled by our southern borders. And it says here in this particular meme, it says open borders are fueling the fentanyl pandemic. And yes, it is it's a pandemic in that I don't know if we call it a pandemic because it's mostly happening here in the United States. I don't know what the numbers are in other countries. I don't know how bad it is, say, in countries like Europe or in Mexico, but I do know that it's really, really bad here in these United States, and something needs to be said. The other thing we've been talking about bank failure, right? Well, we had 3 bank failures in 1 week. And at the same time, we have the president talking about this being the strongest economy in 40 years. Yeah, right. And then finally, you may know that Donald Trump is about to be arrested, or at least that's what he is reporting. And that's what they're reporting out of New York. Well, this meme where you have Donald Trump dressed up as Obi-Wan Kenobi, it says, "If you arrest me, Dems, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." And that goes back to like what Mike was saying. If you arrest Donald Trump, it's like throwing cans of spinach at Popeye. It's a bad idea. You're only going to make him stronger and increase the likelihood that he is going to get reelected president of the United States. It's just a bad idea. It just really is. Anyway, folks, that's it. But before we go, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. You'll find them at hitmanindustries.net. Check them out. Get your rifle and pistol length barrels today. California Republican Assembly. Become a part of California's future today. Support the California Republican Assembly. Hog holsters. Get your hog holsters at hogholster.com. Use discount code rundown. All caps, no spaces. And finally, get your tactical gear, outdoor gear, wet gear, helmet, whatever you're looking for. Get it at uscombatgear.com. And that is going to be the day for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. You folks enjoy, and we'll talk to you